The Dartmouth School Music Association has been an outstanding community organization for many years. This group was known way back as the Dartmouth high school band parents group, but now it's an all-encompassing group supporting music initiatives in Dartmouth and, of course, the high school band. Here to talk about the association is Greg Jones, the recording secretary of the board of the association. Greg, thanks for coming in.
Oh, you're welcome, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Greg, a lot of people know about the success of the Dartmouth High School Band over the years. What they may not know is what parents kind of go through to make it happen. This is not an easy gig to volunteer to. There are long hours. Yes. There are trips,
yep,
chaperones, those kinds of questions and duties.
Yeah.
All of that.
The Music Association, their main role is primarily to raise funds to support the music programs in the Dartmouth schools, but they also play a large role in supporting sort of the grunt work that happens behind the scenes. I don't know if folks have seen the tractor trailer that gets filled with equipment. Well, that gets loaded not only by the kids but by parents as well, and unloaded multiple times during the season. Parents also make props. We've got a crew of dedicated parents that are starting to make props for this coming spring's program. We look for help in a lot of ways, not just money, but also volunteer time.
And that's always an issue. There's never enough hands sometimes for some of these projects, and so you are looking for some new members.
Yep.
What can people do to get involved?
Well, over the years, what tends to happen is parents have their kids in the program for sometimes 5 or 6 years. So there tends to develop a bond of parents that follow through for 5 or 6 years with their kid, and then all of a sudden a group of them, as their child graduates, they leave. So one of the things we try and do every year is bring some of the new kids' parents on board early and introduce them to what it takes to keep this thing running. So we're working very hard to be an open board, an open group of friendly people, friendly faces, so that new parents don't feel intimidated. I remember the first time I tried this, my son was in it as a 8th grader, and I watched these parents work their tails off, loading the truck, making props. I didn't know how to fit in and step in because it looked like they had everything under control. Well, the reality is, even back then, they needed people to jump in and offer their help. So what I encourage people to do is when they see us making props or loading stuff, introduce yourselves, come up. We're happy to have new folks.
And of course, there's new students every year that join the band or join the color guard or join percussion, and folks shouldn't. Part of the scene with this Dartmouth School Music Association, really. If your kid's in a band, you probably
you got to be part of it. Yeah, absolutely, because it will not work without parent participation. So when we do get some new kids in, we try and make an overture to the parents at a couple of meetings. We have several parent meetings at the end of the summer for the fall season, and then we just finished one about 2 weeks ago for the upcoming spring season, where we introduce ourselves. We have a captive audience because we sort of mandate that the parents attend these meetings to hear what we're all about, to hear what the upcoming season brings. So we do this year. We've been fortunate. We had a lot of new parents step up. 7th and 8th grade parents, and the hope is they help us out a little bit and they see how it works, and they see that it's really not hard work. It just takes some time, and the group of parents that we get together to do things, they form friendships through that. So part of the thing that I enjoy is I got roped into sewing about 3 years ago because they ran out of stitchers.
Sure.
So I learned how to sew. I have my own machine, and I met a great group of parents, and we have our own little sewing group that fixes costumes, and there's a group of people that build props. And I've met so many new people through those groups that it's really made it enjoyable for me and for other parents too.
And do you see a fall off or a subtraction of parents once their kids graduate? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
You see some of that.
You do. Every year what ends up happening, particularly on the board level, we've got, say a vice president and a president. They've probably been in the system for 6 or 7 years, so they've got a lot of history with them. But when their child graduates and moves on to college or to the workforce, they stick around for another year just to pass some of that history off to the new folks. But then they move on to other things. So there's a bit of a vacuum every year. Some years it's worse than others. I think 3 years ago, we had a complete changeover of the entire board, where all the board members, the 6 board members that were on the executive board, all had seniors graduate. And the next year they were gone.
They were ready to move on. Now, how about you? You had a youngster on the band?
I did. My son, who's turns 21 today, actually, joined as an 8th grader. So that's when I got involved, and that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. He stuck it out for a year. It really wasn't for him, but that was my introduction. So I stayed with it knowing that I had a daughter 4 years behind him. She ultimately started again in 8th grade, and now she's a junior, and she's been in the program for 4 years and will finish next year as a senior. So I've stayed involved. It's going on 8 years now. And the first time I went to one of these competitions, I was in awe of what the kids do. We saw a lot of other schools who do great shows and programs, but when Dartmouth gets up there and does their show, it's incredible. It's a heads and shoulders above some of the other groups they compete against.
I would tell you that it is heads and shoulders. Yeah. Really, it's a remarkable show. They do a great job in choreography and the whole melding the music part with the percussion people and the flags and
yep.
the whole thing. They do a great job.
Yep.
And it's obviously, I think, the result of, for the most part, the band director,
mm-hmm.
Mr. Kingsland,
yep.
and his staff,
yep.
who have apparently do their homework every year trying to come up with imaginative programs, clearly.
Yeah, it's that, but it's also, in a previous life, I was on the school committee in Dartmouth, so I got introduced to the budget workings of a school system. And one of the keys, I think, to the Dartmouth having the success that it does is that Dartmouth buys into music at all grade levels. So the band director and his assistant, Tom Ungst, start teaching these kids music in the elementary grades, which is unusual in a lot of schools these days because the funds aren't there to support music in elementary levels. Dartmouth has stuck to funding music programs in the elementary grades so that the band director and the percussion director start seeing kids in 4th and 5th grade and groom them through the years so that by the time they get into middle school, they have an eye on some of the kids that really have a desire to go into the band. And the kids are not just getting dumped into the high school to learn music and get into the band. It's a years-long sort of laddering effect. So certainly Mr. Kingsland and Mr. Ungst have incredible talent. They've also got people that help them with choreography. But I think the administration of the school system and the town deserves a lot of credit for maintaining the budget as best they can to keep music in the elementary grades.
Dartmouth taxpayers do deserve
they do.
Credit for helping with that as well. Not every youngster can play a sport, but I think if you look hard enough, you might find a place on the band for a lot of youngsters. Isn't that right?
I tell you, Dartmouth, again, one of the few schools that allows any student that wants to participate in the marching band or indoor percussion or the color guard to participate. There's no bench. If you want to be on the band or in the band, the only thing you have to do is dedicate your time and effort, and you will be in the band, which is tremendous.
You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips, and my guest is Greg Jones. He is the recording secretary of the board of the Dartmouth School Music Association. The success that the Dartmouth High School Band has had is remarkable. Certainly, the kids work very hard. We know there are very long practice hours.
Yep.
I go by Dartmouth High School sometimes in the evening, at least when I was working full-time, and there they'd be out there practicing.
They start
very dim light, I might add.
They start for the fall marching band season. They give up the last 2 weeks of their summer vacation and start what's called mini camp, where the kids will show up at the high school 8 o'clock, and work till 6 or 9 o'clock for 2 weeks prior to the start of school. This coming year, for the spring season, when they travel to the national championships in Dayton, Ohio, it turns out it's during spring break. So they're going to be giving up their spring break to perform and compete in Ohio. They did that last year, and they'll give up their break again this year. They give up a good portion of their Christmas vacation to start practicing for the spring season. So the dedication of the kids is just tremendous.
And it is. I mean, I would go by at 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
In the late spring, and kids would be practicing.
Yeah. The only thing that stops them shortly after 9 o'clock is when the neighbors start calling saying it's 9 o'clock, it's time to quit. So yes, 9 o'clock is the general cutoff time for the kids. But they'd go longer if the neighbors would let them.
Sure. You're a believer, Greg. You
I
believe in
am.
the program. You believe in all of it. What do you think the band program gives students?
Oh gosh, I can tell you what it gave my daughter, or it gives my daughter. She'll shoot me if she hears this. Very shy kid, kept to herself in middle school. She was recruited for the band in 8th grade. And so she joined in 8th grade. For the first 2 weeks of the summer camp, she met a lot of high school kids. She was introduced to the high school culture. She made so many fast friends in that 2-week period that for her to go from middle school to high school was easy. She already had a bunch of friends. She knew how things worked. The older kids took her under their wing, and she had a tremendous freshman year. And if you listen to a lot of educators, the step from middle school to high school can be a difficult one for a lot of kids, and they can lose a lot of academic steam if they're not comfortable.
Yeah.
So for my daughter, and I know for a lot of other kids that have gone through a similar step up to the high school, having the band kids help them with that transition makes a tremendous difference.
And what year is she in now?
Katie is a junior now.
All right, she's been 5 years in the band.
4
years in the
So
band.
8th grade through junior, and then 5th year next year will be her senior year.
All right, 4 years in the band. And she hasn't lost steam yet. She
No,
hasn't
I
said,
tell
boy,
you.
this is getting to be.
She doesn't complain.
Else. I want to work. I want to make money. No?
I wanted to work and make money, but no, she looks forward to the band. And now that she's one of the older kids, she's the one, along with her older friends, bring the 8th graders under their wing to teach them the ropes, to make them feel comfortable. And I think she enjoys that role.
What funds your organization, Greg? Is it donations, pure and simple?
Well, we do a lot of things, and the Dartmouth School Music Association raises upwards of $100,000 every single year to help augment the funds that the school system provides. A big part of our fundraising effort is we man Gillette Stadium concession booth. So every Gillette event, Dartmouth School Music Association sends 12 parents up to serve food, beer, soda for Patriots games, for New England Revolution games, for concerts. So that effort alone, we bring in about $20,000 to $25,000 a year.
Wow.
And we've got I'll put a.
You don't want to lose that one.
We do not want to lose that one, but that's probably the hardest one to get folks to sign up for because it's a long day. You've got to get there early, and you leave after the game is over.
Generally a weekend.
It's generally a weekend. We have there's 2 of them the day after Christmas, the day after New Year's. So those are hard to fill, but we can't lose that. The other things we do. We run the concession stand at the home football games, so we raise quite a bit of money selling hamburgers and hot dogs at the Dartmouth High football games. We don't have the kids sell stuff generally anymore. We don't like the kids going door to door, so we try and be creative in doing fundraisers. The latest one, which was a huge surprise to us, was this mattress sale. I don't know if you saw the signs up a month or so ago.
I did see the signs.
And when that was introduced to us as a board, we said, who's going to buy mattresses? How can you make money selling? Well, believe it or not, in one day, we raised $5,800 clear profit selling mattresses. So I was shocked, to tell you the truth, and we really didn't have to do a lot of work. Yeah, so that was a great fundraiser. We're probably going to do it again, given its success. We do a lot of other smaller things: spaghetti dinners, pancake breakfasts, car washes, that sort of stuff. And all that money goes directly back to the program. It supports the tractor trailer. It pays stipends for some of the instructors, buys costumes. It buys instruments or instrument repairs. We've got to buy all the music rights. Being in the radio business, you know that you've got to pay for every piece of music you play. So it's gotten very expensive to buy the music rights. And we're constantly looked after to make sure we've bought the music rights so we don't get sued. Some other schools have gotten into deep trouble by not purchasing rights. So a lot of money, believe it or not, goes, if it's a 30-second snippet of music, you've got to pay for it.
Well, it has been a remarkable year for the Dartmouth High School Band and the music program in general. Dartmouth High recently finished up a first-place finish.
Yep, they finished first place down in New Jersey. The culmination of the fall marching band season is at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And the kids competed. They had, I think, 12 other schools in their division. So they came out on top in their division. But not only that, they scored the highest point score out of all 57 schools performing that day. So they not only won their division, but they beat every other school as far as points go. And that was a back-to-back, which was unusual.
They don't win every year, but it seems like they do, Greg.
In the marching band, they tend to be in top 3 almost every year.
Well, congratulations to the students, the teachers, and also the parents who support that band.
Absolutely.
Like Greg Jones. Thank you, Greg, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Jim, and thanks for having me.
That's it for this weekend's Townsquare Sunday, heard every week at this time on 1420 WBSM. My thanks to WBSM Production Director Jason Kent for getting the show on the air, and digital editor Casey Sylvia for posting these interviews on our website, WBSM.com. Just click on Townsquare Sunday in the What's Hot section on the website, and all of our interviews will be listed there from this week and weeks gone by. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jim Phillips. Have a great week and a wonderful Sunday.